welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Stable. Today I have a super exciting guest. It is Ali Kelly, also known as Ali Approved across on Instagram. We're going to chat about basically everything today: social media, dressage, your cob. You also just mentioned to me off camera that you'd like to speak a little bit about autism. You've also just undergone spinal surgery, which is crazy. So we're going to go into all of it. So it's going to be a really interesting episode with lots of different elements to it, which is my favourite kind of episodes. So I would like to just start by going right back to the beginning of your journey and tell me how you got into horses.
As a young, at the time, undiagnosed autistic person, other autistic and neurodivergent people will know you get really heavily invested into certain things. And my first kind of obsession was cats.
Okay.
But we live on a main road, so we couldn't have cats. So I kind of was looking at other animals, and I fell in love with horses. And I developed, when I was younger, I had inturned feet. So the doctor actually recommended to my mum, well, why don't you start taking young Alexandra horse riding? It will turn her feet outwards.
Right.
That was when I was 6 and I'm 33 now. So I was at riding schools till I was about 12. And then I got my first lone pony, at 12.
Yeah. And what was the lone pony like? What was its CV?
She was a 5-year-old Haflinger mare. So that was my first experience of having a horse day to day, and I fell on my bum more times than I cared to. It's probably not helped with my back, really, has it? So I had her from when I was 12 till when I was 18, and I went to university. And then it didn't stop there. I worked at a riding school in London for a bit. And in my last year of university, I was only in once a week. So I had a loan, and then the loan turned into, the lady just turned around one day and was like, I can't afford 2 horses. Do you want to buy Josh off me? In fact, I'll give him to you. And I was like, no. I will give you some money towards him. And so then I had Josh, and he was my first proper horse of my own that I did everything with.
Mm-hmm. Going back to that 12 to 18, what were you doing with that lone pony at that time?
Well, she was no good at jumping, and she had 2 left feet. Well, all right, let's say 3 left feet because she's got 4 legs. When it came to dressage, so we did a lot of showing, and that's kind of where I steered then with Josh later on. I then went on to do Sidesaddle with him. So it was all kind of thanks to Meg, because she was a Haflinger, and there's Haflinger classes at county level and stuff. Not that she was ever that good, but that kind of got me into showing.
Yes, you've done a mixture of things then: showing, dressage, Sidesaddle.
Yeah.
Which one should we dive into first? Should we talk about showing?
We can talk about showing, yeah.
Okay, speak to me about the showing world and how you found that experience.
So obviously very young, it was all kind of Billy Basic, just your unaffiliated, in hand. And then when I had Josh, obviously I went more to kind of county level. I started riding for a local producer to me who kind of perfected my craft with Sidesaddle. And her top horse, Henry, he's been on TV. He was amazing. We sadly lost him a few years ago. We did jumped Sidesaddle. Who'd have thought? Again, it's probably not great for my back, looking back actually, and everything that I've done over my life. But we did everything with Henry. We were chasing qualifiers. Never got there, but it was a great experience. And then when I got Mags, I got him with the intention of going all the way showing. But obviously then we had COVID. He grew too tall to be classed as a heavyweight cob. So I trained with Katie Jerram for a while, who's local to me. Some of you may know she used to ride for the Queen. And we got a stick out and measured him, and she was like, he's just too tall to be a heavyweight, but not big enough built to be a maxi. And I was like, well, what the bloody hell do I do? Like, I've got this horse to show. And she was like, well, shows are opening up now. Take him out, let him see the world, maybe do a bit of dressage, then come back to me when you want to do Sidesaddle. Well, we've not been back because we did what Katie Jerram said and tried dressage, and we absolutely loved it. And he knows when the bell goes, he's like, game time. This is it. This is the Mags show. Everyone's here to watch me. And we just, like I say, we haven't looked back.
Yeah. Just for a bit of context on the showing, maybe people out there haven't done showing before, don't know much about the discipline. How does showing work? What are the rules?
Oh God, there's a lot of unwritten rules which are just, you know, when you're in a certain class, you have to dress a certain way. You don't just rock up in tweed. It doesn't work like that. You can only wear tweed for your working hunter class, for your cob classes, and then for your riding horse class, you've got to wear plain. It's all very like, I'm not an expert. I try. I've done all the research, but it's, and obviously there's show condition, and that's a big thing in itself. There's a lot of people now that are saying show horses are unhealthy horses because they're so, I don't want to say fat, but quite big. But then there's a lot of classes now. I mean, my friend Katie Lewis does a lot of showing, and a lot of classes that she's been going to up at Equifest, there's actually classes now for best condition, the horses that are a healthy weight. And that was another thing with Mags, is I got a little bit of hate online with how big he was. And obviously he was kept a little bit bigger for show condition, but that doesn't mean that that's healthy. And with social media, you've got to be transparent. So I was like, right, looking at him, he is overweight. I need to show people how I'm helping him lose weight, because yeah, in certain showing classes, they have got to be a little bit bigger, but you know, we're not chasing Hoys qualifiers or Royal International. We're just trotting down the centre line at our local BD show. So that's been quite a big focus, especially now I'm working with feed brands, to show that your show horses and your dressage horses can be healthy and a healthy size. Sorry, I've really gone off tangent, haven't I?
No, this is really interesting to me because I don't know much about the showing world, so I wouldn't even have known that that was an issue with the showing industry. So no, go on. That's really interesting.
It is. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how to go on. I mean, I've kind of rambled a little bit, but yeah, there is this big thing about show condition versus having your horse at a healthy weight, and it is something that people are starting to talk about. You do see, unfortunately, you do see a lot of horses trotting around the big shows, and you think they've got fat pockets there and there, and the judges put them in first. It's breaking that kind of that cycle of that being normal, because it's not normal. You know, there's no Ozempic for horses. You pick what they eat and how much exercise they do, and as an owner, you've got to be kind of held responsible for that. You've got to take some kind of responsibility. So working with, like I say, the brands has helped us massively with, I mean, the feed company that I work with don't only talk about what hard feed they give you, but what forage you should give, whether you should soak it, how long you should soak it for, what kind of exercise to kind of incorporate to get rid of those fat pockets and just have a healthy horse.
Mm-hmm. So obviously the weight and stuff for the horse is very important in showing and kind of what that aesthetically looks like. What else is the judge looking for in the showing?
The judge wants to look like you're not doing anything at all. They want to see the perfect picture of you just floating around the ring and doing your routine. Sometimes it's a set routine. A lot of the time it isn't. You've got to make it up on the spot, watch what the person's doing before you and go, right, I'm going to incorporate that. But I know my horse has a nice, Max has a brilliant extended canter. He's really enthusiastic about it. So I'm like, right, I'll do that there. So it's in front of the judge. So they have to look at me. So it is, in the truest sense, putting on a show. This is my horse. He's a cob. He's the best example of a cob out of all of these cobs here. So it's very kind of egotistical as well. Whilst compared to dressage, you're so self-critical. You'll come out of the ring and be like, well, that was rubbish, and I didn't do this right, and that circle was a bit small, before you even get the sheet, because you're anticipating what the sheet's going to say. Whilst showing's kind of the opposite. You've got to kind of put on this facade that I am the best. I'm the best out of all of these. I've scrubbed them white socks till they're gleaming. And I mean, when I used to ride for the local producer to me, she had 2 greys. I know how hard it is to get a grey to be pure white, to make a white horse shiny. It's an art. It takes your tears. Tears get the stains out. But yeah.
Would you have any tips for anyone who's looking to get into showing, whether it be, obviously the grooming part is very important.
Absolutely.
So any grooming tips?
Yeah, I think you should groom all year round. It really grates me when I see people just bath their horse the day before a show. Like, no, especially if you've got a grey horse, that's a full-time commitment. And I mean, I had someone say to me recently, you're always doing stuff with Mags. You're always faffing around. It's like, he needs to look pristine. I do let him go out and have a roll and get dirty, but it's an ongoing thing to keep him clean. Obviously with him, he has the added trouble with his melanders. He's got such a touch of CPL, which is chronic progressive lymphedema,
Okay.
which is a build-up of fluid in their legs. So he's like, anyone who says cobs are low maintenance are liars, or they don't know anything about cobs. Like, whoever told me to get a cob, I'm holding you responsible, because yeah, but that's the same with all kind of show horses, and I've kind of carried it over to the dressage, where turnout is such a big part. Like, if you've got a horse that has a mane that flicks to the left, which you should always have it on the off side of the horse, that's easier for me to remember, is don't just plait it a couple of weeks before to get the mane over. Plait it all the time. You know, if your horse is a little bit, you know, scruffy, tidy it up a few weeks beforehand, because if you do a rubbish job, it takes a few weeks for it to grow back, and it will, you know, it's an ongoing thing, is what I say about showing. Don't clean your tack the night before. Clean it a few weeks before, so the night before it's not as much to do. Kind of break it into chunks. It makes it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, like white legs and stuff. Have you got any tips for? Do you chop? What do you do?
I do sometimes chalk the day before, or on the day, sorry, or use stable wraps. Obviously, with Mags, it's not ideal because of his CPL, but with other horses that can tolerate stable wraps, wrap them. Coat shine is my best friend. After I bath him, he's covered in coat shine. Obviously, you've got to be careful because some coat shines are slippery, but the one I use, I'm not going to name drop brands, but isn't. So I cover him in that, so that any dirt he does get on him brushes straight out. I sound really pernickety, but I'm just he has to look good. He has to look good all the time, bless him.
Yeah, no, and it makes sense to do it all the time rather than leaving it all to the night before.
Literally, yeah.
So
Bamboozles my brain.
great tip. What about any tips for the actual showing, for the class, for the warm up, that side of things?
If there are professionals and producers there, watch what they do. And I mean, I know Katie is really approachable. You can talk to these people in the warm-ups and, you know, ask them for tips as well. So yeah, my main tip would be watch what other people do. The good and the bad. If a horse is mucking about and it's spooking at the burger van, then you know, oh, that burger van's generator's a bit noisy. I'll kind of, you know, let them look at it in the warm-up, but steer them away. And know your venue as well, so you know where the spooky things are, what kind of ring you're going to go in, because again, with showing, a lot of it isn't on a surface, it's on grass, so know kind of where you're going, where it's undulating. A lot of showgrounds I've been to are, you know, they've got hills and stuff in them, so you think, God, well, if I'm going to do my extended canter, I don't want to do it there, because it goes down a dip and up again, so when I go down the dip, they're not going to see me. So do your research in where you're going, and make friends with other competitors in the car park as well. 9 times out of 10, if you need a mounting block, they'll lend you a mounting block. Like, showing people are friendly.
Yeah, no, and I love that tip, because obviously Lance Harmony is all about harmony and working together.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, being nice to everyone in the warm up, the car park, wherever you are. So yeah, it's nice to hear that community is like that and is happy to lend you the mountain block. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Would you have any tips? Obviously, showing can be a very critical and a very harsh discipline as well, and you don't always get placed where you're expecting to get placed, and you put in the hard work, all the lead up, like you say, backing all the time, keeping on top of it all, and then you come out and maybe you don't get the result that you were expecting. How do you deal with maybe that disappointment?
Well, firstly, you can't take it personally. I mean, I've been on the other end where I've judged locally, and it is so hard. It's so hard, especially when you've got a lineup of beautiful horses, and sometimes it goes right down to the wire. Whose shoe clenches are showing up? That one isn't. That one's above that. It can be really just pernickety again. Like, it's just one of those things. So try not to take it to heart and look for your next one. And speak to the judge sometimes as well. I mean, some judges will be more willing than others. I mean, I did a working hunter class, oh God, I want to say 10 years ago, but I remember it because I was pulled in second. So I stopped the judge. I said, hi, can I just ask why I was placed second? I was the only person to go clear in the jumping. And she said, oh yes, you were the only one to go clear, but your horse is just a bit old. And I thought, well, there's nothing I can do about that. I can't chuck him in a DeLorean and make him younger. Like, he is what he is. So again, I couldn't take it personally. I wasn't going to start judge bashing online or anything like that. But I thought, right, okay, just got to be aware when I'm under that judge again. maybe don't mention how old he is, or or say, oh, he's in his late teens, you know, or whatever. Because, you know, I got Josh when he was 17, so we were on borrowed time, as it was. But he was a great working hunter, and he did go clear that day, so he was robbed. But what can you do? So just, yeah, I would say don't take it to heart. Tomorrow's another day. Just keep going, and your hard work will pay off eventually, whether it's to go to Royal International or to win at your local riding club and get the end of year trophy. Like, you do reap what you sow.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any favourite showing memories?
I think winning at the Orsett show, which, for people that don't know, the Orsett show is kind of the biggest county. I say county show. It's technically a country show because it's one day in Essex. So you get a lot of the home crowd. There's Ferris wheels, there's parachute jumpers and all of that. So to win there was brilliant. I won the ladies Sidesaddle class there, so that was great. That's probably one of my favourite showing memories. Although actually, no, I have a second one. We were invited to go to the London Riding Horse Show, which is invite only, and it's at Hyde Park. And you get to ride in the arena that the Household Cavalry use.
Oh, okay.
And we had, me and a couple of friends had our picture taken cantering on Rotten Row. So for those of you that don't know, Rotten Row was the main kind of track through Hyde Park in the middle of London, where Sidesaddle was born there, really. Back in the kind of 1800s, early 1900s, instead of your Top Shop, which isn't there anymore, all right, all the American candy shops, there was Champion and Wilton selling Sidesaddles, Whippy selling Sidesaddles. They were all born round the corner from Rotten Row. So to go back there hundreds of years later and have our picture taken cantering towards the camera on Rotten Row was just... Is that technically a showing memory? I guess it is, because that was a show, but that actually probably trumps that as being my favourite showing memory.
Yeah, amazing. That's lovely.
So cool.
Yeah,
I'll have to show you the picture. It's
very cool.
So cool.
Have you got any final showing tips then for anyone who's wanting to get into that discipline?
If you want to get into that discipline, obviously you've got to have thick skin. Not everyone's going to agree with you that your horse is amazing, but obviously don't let that bother you. You know your horse is great, and you always bring home the best horse. And yeah, invest in washing up liquid, purple shampoo if you have it. If you have a horse with white anywhere, literally Mags only has a little bit of white on him and I still have purple shampoo. And obviously invest in coat shine and use it all year round.
Yeah, perfect. Amazing tips. This episode is brought to you by Atlantic Harmony Equestrian, where clothes are more than just what you wear, they're how you express yourself. At Atlantic Harmony, we're not just another logo. We're building a community of equestrians who believe in connection, support, and making a difference. Our high-quality, stylish apparel is designed for riders who value both function and fashion, while supporting sustainable practices. Join a brand with a purpose. Visit atlanticharmonyequestrian.co.uk and be part of a community where style meets empowerment. Atlantic Harmony, where riders support riders. Let's jump into the side saddle then.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the first time that you sat in a side saddle?
I do. I was about 14 and I went to Valley Farm in Suffolk. So my parents had a static caravan and I used to hate going there. It was so boring. At weekends, what I want to do is hang out down the stables with my friends. I don't want to go to some boring old caravan in Suffolk. So my mum made me a deal and said, right, you find a riding school close to where the caravan is and you can have a lesson. Well, I did better than that. I found a riding school that did side saddle and western riding. And so we booked a side saddle lesson and I was on a half blind Cremello pony. And after that, I was obsessed. I was hooked. Anything side saddle. I was buying books on side saddle. I was reading up on side saddle. It's the autism showing again. I go all in. Like, if there's an obsession to be had with something, I'm all in. And so then fast forward to, I was in my last year at university and I'd been given Josh. and I befriended a lady called Kathy Hollick, who then brought a side saddle down for me to try on Josh, and he just took to it immediately, like he'd done it his whole life. So then after that, I rented a side saddle from a lady called Pippa in Kent, had that for a couple of years, and then obviously rode for Julia, who's the local producer to me. And I do still love it. I don't do it anymore, but I'm a big, massive supporter. There's a really great community of sideways ladies on Instagram, and I mean, my hero is Susan Oakes, who is an Irish side saddle rider who has the world record for the highest jump side saddle. She is amazing, and I have fangirl moments every time she likes my posts on Instagram. I'm like, Susan Oakes knows I exist. She's so cool.
What was it about the side saddle that initially interested you?
Just how it was so different and how it's so kind of elegant, and there's so much history to it. Probably won't surprise you, I'm a bit of a history buff. And I was quite a tomboy growing up, so to dress up in the habit and the top hat and the veil is kind of like almost like escapism. You're wearing a costume essentially, and it's the fact that women aren't forced to do it anymore. It's a choice. You can choose to do it now. And that kind of appealed to me. And I love everything about it. I'm so passionate. You can tell I'm really passionate about it. I just absolutely love it.
Do you have a favourite memory riding side saddle?
Probably like I said, cantering on Rotten Row, just being where history was made, where there's so many black and white pictures of all these Victorian women with their top hats on and their teeny tiny little waists. It felt magical.
Yeah. Is there anything about side saddle that people would be surprised to learn?
That actually some of the best side saddle riders were men. Because who broke the horses in? The men, the grooms. They actually did a lot of the school. They did all the schooling. So people don't realise that. There's another fella actually online called Bruce McKinley, and he's really big into side saddle, and he's got a whole team of stallions that ride side saddle. And he doesn't so much anymore, but he took them right up to county level. Obviously, once you get to the ladies' side saddle classes, he couldn't ride. He put all the work in. So all these ladies have to do is get on and look absolutely elegant. So yeah, so that would be a fact that would surprise a lot of people, is that all the horses were started by men, which we don't want to admit. But back in the Victorian times, you never have a lady getting on a horse that's newly broken. You'd have to, get the groom on it. So.
Yeah. When I look at the side saddle, I think that looks incredibly hard and just scary. And speak me through, if I wanted to get into side saddle, if anyone watching wanted to get into side saddle, how do I convince myself to do it that it's not scary?
Oh my God, it's so much. If I'm on a horse that's bucking and rearing, I'd much rather be side saddled. Really? You're pretty much strapped in. You've got your right leg hooked up, and your left leg is kind of, without hitting the mic, is kind of snug underneath the one of the pommels. Yeah. So you're very, very safe. You just have to, again, probably not great for my back. You have to constantly push yourself so that you're still shoulder, hip, heel, and you're still central. So that part of it is hard. But other than that, I think it's might even be easier than riding astride on it. Jumping's a little bit, that's a little bit scary. Not gonna lie. I've got on video my first ever side saddle jump, and I make an unholy voice. I'm like, but it's really actually quite safe, and there are a lot of instructors out there that can bring side saddles to you to try on your own horses. I mean, my friend Katie, who's local to me, has got side saddles that will fit anything from a 10-hand Shetland cross to something mag size. So if you can find an accredited side saddle instructor on the Side Saddle Association website, a lot of them, like I say, will bring a saddle so you can try it on the comfort of your own horse, or if there's a horse on the yard that's a bit safer than yours, you can maybe make a day of it and share. And it's really, I think everyone should give it a go at least once in their life.
Yeah. How do you think riding side saddles impacted just your regular riding?
It's made
English, like just normal.
Yeah. It's made me way more aware of my position and how I sit in the saddle and how that affects the horse. I mean, I'm still not perfect, especially now after my spinal surgery. There's definitely things to iron out, but it's made me really more aware of how I sit on the horse and how that then affects the horse, especially with your seat. I mean, when I started Mags, I did a lot from my seat because obviously the intention was to eventually side saddle in one day.
Yeah.
And when you've only got one leg, it is quite hard. So a lot of your cues have to come from your seat, and it's not something I'd ever really thought about. So that has impacted my riding a lot now astride.
Yeah, amazing. Let's get on to the next discipline then, dressage.
So dressage,
Woman of many talents.
I don't know about that. Jack of all trades, master of none.
No, speak me through the dressage, how you got into that.
Well, yeah, like I say, so Katie Jerem said to me, go out, let your horse see the world, and then come back to me. And we started off unaffiliated, your intros on grass, and he just kind of flourished. And my best friend Charlie is massively into dressage. She eats, breathes, eats everything dressage. I said eats twice, doesn't matter. So she kind of convinced me to give BD a go, and BD's British Dressage, do like a trial for 6 months. So we did it on a trial and we did really well. So I thought this might be Mags's thing, you know. So I renewed that for a year and we qualified straight off the bat for area festival and really enjoyed it, and really enjoyed sort of the people in the car park saying to you, how did you get on? You looked great out there, chatting in the warm-up. It was just really friendly, and I really liked that vibe where people, because dressage ultimately is, especially British dressage, is people are there for their own reasons. They're not there because they want to win necessarily. They want their points for the next qualifier, whether it's regionals, areas, associated champs. So they want other people to do well. There's none of this skullduggery, oh, that person's leading for the championship, I hope they fall off, which you do get unaffiliated, which is horrible, which is why I don't really miss that side of dressage, the unaffiliated side. Whilst, like I say, BD, everyone's there for their own reasons. They want to beat, well, I especially want to beat my score from last time. Especially now we're limited to how many tests there are. BD have got rid of a load of tests. There's only kind of 4 or 5 for each kind of section. So I've probably done novice 4 loads of times, but I want to beat my score from the last time I did novice 4. I may have fluffed up that circle last time, but I sure ain't going to fluff it up today. So that's what I like about it. There's a routine to it, and you are against yourself at the end of the day. There's none of, it's really not that competitive. Well, it is, but it kind of isn't.
And how do you train for dressage?
So at home mostly. I have a wonderful team of instructors. So I have a lady called Amy Warner that comes to me. She absolutely kicks our butts. If it's rubbish, she'll tell us to do it again. And that's what I need. I can't have someone, because I've had instructors in the past go, oh, that was brilliant, that was great. And I think, well, if that was brilliant and that was great, why aren't I winning? Why am I not winning everything? Whilst Amy's brutal, she's like, that centre line, you were way off. And I was like, you know what, I felt it. She's like, well, why did you carry on? Turn around and do it again. I'm like, yeah, all right then, sorry. And then on the opposite end, I've got Maddie Birchall, who's known as the dressage coach on Instagram, and she's great. She's a different approach. She's more collaborative. She'll make me say it's rubbish before she says it's rubbish. And she really, different to my other instructor, Amy, has different kind of viewpoints on things. She's trained with Carl Hester for the last 20 years. And she's great. She busts my ass. And then a couple of times a year I have Pippa Hutton. So you've interviewed Charlie, haven't you?
Yeah.
He's so cool. And Pippa's amazing. I feel like I've got a rapport with Pippa now, where I did a circle for her once and she was like, what was that? And I was like, 20-meter circle. She was like, who taught you how to do 20-meter circles? Break it down. And I was like, actually, yeah, I've been doing 20-meter circles wrong for like nearly 30 years. Like, who knew? And she's great. She gives me so much homework because obviously she's in Gloucester, I'm in Essex. It's very hard. I'd love to do a crash course one day, because she has just such a wealth of knowledge. And so combination of those 3 instructors has kind of got me and Mags where we are now. And obviously while I've been off with my spinal injury, I've had my friend Kira, who's competed in junior riders, and she's been great. And I can watch her ride Mags all day. And I can't wait for when I get back on in the school and she can just bust me and be like, right, I sit like this, so you have to sit like that, blah, 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 do this, do that. And he will just go amazingly, hopefully.
Out of any of the instructors that you've just mentioned, so any of the three,
Mm-hmm.
what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Other than actually to ride a 20-minute circle properly from Pippa, it's to go in the school with a plan. That's kind of what Maddie's always told me. Go in the school with a plan. Sometimes your plan might have to change. You know, you might say, right, I want to work on leg yielding today, but as you're leg yielding, we have a forest school at our yard. The forest school kids might be out making loads of noise. So, okay, might not have to do that, might have to stay at one end of the school. So go in there with a plan, but be aware that your plan might have to change, or you might have to kind of adapt that a little bit. So that's a really good piece of advice.
Yeah. Is there any other advice that you've had along the way, maybe in like your younger years or more recent, that you think you need to share with everyone?
I talk a lot when I ride. Well, I talk a lot in general, let's be honest. But when I ride, I talk a lot.
Yeah.
Because when I was a lot younger, I'd hold my breath and I'd go silent. And my mum had to say to my instructor as a kid when I had Meg, like, Ali is all right, but she's just concentrating. And I think I'd get so kind of hyper focused on one thing that, you know what horse riding's like. You have to multitask, you have to spin so many plates. So, my advice that I've kind of taken into kind of adulthood is to talk to my horse, talk out loud, whatever you're doing, because it means you breathe. Then obviously when you're in a dressage test you can't, so you have to adapt with that. Maybe some of my pictures aren't great because I'm probably gurning to make sure I'm breathing, but when you're talking, you're breathing. Just especially when you're jumping, you're coming up to a jump and you know you think, oh my god, hold my breath. But no, I think talking is very important.
Yeah.
To your horse. Max loves it when I talk to him. I don't think he actually takes anything in, but he knows exactly what's going on in Celebrity Big Brother at the moment. So, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to speak about the process of buying a horse and what it was like for you to buy Max.
Right. So when I bought Mags, he wasn't what I wanted at all. I wanted something a lot older, a bit more established, and me and my mum went to look at a lot of horses, and people lie. I got on this horse over in Kent, lovely, rode him in the school, he was great. Actually, I was on my own this day, my mum wasn't with me. And I said to the girl, oh, can I take him up the road? Is there anywhere sort of short to hack him? And she said, oh yeah, take him out the road, there's a bridle way to the left. I was like, oh great, thanks. Started riding him off of the yard and he was backing up, trying to spin, and I was like, right, okay, this is a bit weird. And so I kicked him on and he reared bolt upright. And I went, nah, I'm not having this. So I got straight off and handed him to her, and she was like, oh, well, he's never done that before. I went, no, this, you know, I know this is established behaviour. You know, I don't. It's not for me to school him out of doing it. Like looking to buy a horse. You're asking for a lot of money. I'm just no. So I had to look at a lot before I found Mags. And I found Mags. There was a lady who actually breeds Irish drafts, but this was before Brexit. She brought him and two others over from Ireland. I didn't actually go to view him. I went to view one of the other black cobs that she brought over. But that morning, she texted me. She said, look, I'm really sorry, but the people that viewed Bagheera yesterday really like him, so I've taken a deposit off of them. I've still got Magnum, but he's probably a bit younger than you want. And I turned around to me, mum. I was like, oh, well, you know, we've got up now. We might as well go over and see Magnum and, you know, talk to her about any other horses she's bringing over from Ireland. Oh, sorry, man, I fell in love with him, didn't I? But she was dead honest. She was like, look, cards on the table. When I brought them over, he came with the other two. We put a fly rug on him and we couldn't get near him for 2 weeks. So he just is a little bit feral, but we've really tried to work on him. but he is what he is. He's 5 years old. He's really kind of green. And he was really honest. You know, he stood at the back of his stable. He was really like quite nervous. I got on him in the school and he was really green. I took him to an open field, asked him to canter. He couldn't canter. His legs were all over the place. A bird shot out from a bush and he went, ooh. And I thought, actually, you're all right. I quite like you. But then I had him vetted and he was a year younger than his passport. So he was actually 4. And I thought, oh God, do I really want a 4-year-old? Like, I want to go out and go back to what I was doing with Sidesaddle and, you know, chasing hoys and things like that. But I thought, I just like him. There's something about him. I really like him. And my mum fell in love with him. And that was it, really.
So what was the CV that you kind of set out with? What was the dream horse looking like when you first went out versus what is Meg's CV?
God. So I did want a cob. I probably wanted one maybe the height that he was to begin with, which was 15'1", so heavyweight cob, because maxi cobs are just ginormous. I didn't want a maxi cob. I wanted one probably about 6 or 7, so they've done a little bit. They've seen a bit of the world. Max hadn't seen anything. And one thing that worked in Max's favour is I didn't want one with too much white on them, because obviously I've been scarred for life cleaning grey horses. I really didn't want anything that had too much white to clean. And he had a little bit of white on him, but nothing major. So that was one thing that ticked the box, and one with personality. And he was really shy, but I thought there's something about him. And within 6 months, he was calling at us, coming over to us in the field and just wanting to be with you. And he's a right cuddle bug now. He's just got oodles of personality, which I wouldn't have known when I viewed him, but I just had a feeling. I was like, there's something about him. I can't stop thinking about him. So he's nothing like I actually set out to get, but he's become my horse of a lifetime.
Yeah. What was it in you that wanted a cob? Because I think it's really interesting when I see cobs out doing dressage. They always stand out to me in kind of the warm-up arena. So I'd like to speak about that.
Yeah, so I had a cob on loan for a bit. So when I did that canter at Rotten Row, that was on a horse on loan that I had who was a cob, and he just made me fall in love with cobs. He was so versatile. He'd jump a 6-bar gate if you asked him to. Like, they just have this personality that you either love them or you hate them, and I absolutely love them. So yeah, not the hairy cobs, because I can't deal with, again, all the cleaning. It's just, I just can't do it. I mean, a friend of mine, Natalie, has a hairy cob, so I make an exception for Rodney. He's gorgeous, but I just, something about cobs. I just love them. I know they're awkward to fit saddles to, and rugs don't always sit right on them, but you know, there are a few that do. But there's just something about cobs. Like I say, you either love them or you hate them, and I'm team cob all the way.
Yeah, and I love the whole like cobs can thing.
Yeah,
he's been out, he does novices and all
absolutely.
sorts. So
Yeah, I've got mixed kind of views on that, because people like that whole cobs can. Well, who said they couldn't?
Yeah,
like who?
Well, online hate. That's it. Isn't
Who said? I'll find out who said they can't. Like, you know, like of course they can. But I mean, yeah, you're right. Cobs do get kind of a bad rep. You quite often you'll see on Facebook there's people looking for horses and they'll say no thoroughbreds or cobs. And you think, why? Like, and the same with the prejudice against thoroughbreds. Like, I've known some epic thoroughbreds. You know, I think more thoroughbreds have won Badminton and Burghley than any warm blood. But yeah, with the same with cobs. And then look at Mulvey's era, Ben Hobday's famous cob. Like, come on, of course cobs can. Look at him.
Yeah. I would like to speak about the autism a little bit, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
Can we speak about how that impacts your life and also your riding in the sport?
Okay, so that's kind of, I'm guessing now I know what I know, that's probably why I'm so heavily into horses. I mean, people with autism have like a hyperfixation. Like, a lot of people associate autistic like men or boys being obsessed with things like trains or sci-fi. But what a lot of people don't realise is girls can have it too. And a lot of women are obsessed with horses, because let's face it, horses aren't a hobby, they're a lifestyle. They're all consuming everything. But how it affects me with having horses and riding, that's why dressage is great for me, because there's a routine. You follow it, you don't deviate from it. It's probably why, probably at the beginning of my showing journey, I struggled a little bit, especially when they'd spring on you that day. Right, for this class, there's a set routine. I think, through it. I'm going to run through it in the warm up, but what if it goes wrong? With dressage, it's not like that. And even with the day to day of having mags and taking mags to shows, I have a routine. Even the things like mucking out, I have a routine that I follow because I'm so scared of forgetting something, because it's got implications. If I forget to put a water bucket in for Mags, he's going to have no water. He has got an automatic water drinker as well, but I don't like that. So how does my autism affect me with having horses? Well, it kind of gives me a purpose as well, I think. Before I was diagnosed, when I was 15, I was diagnosed with depression. So I would struggle a lot with, not wanting to go to school, not wanting to get out of bed. I was heavily bullied in secondary school, purely for the fact that I had a horse. Funnily enough, there was a girl in year 7 that decided she's got a horse. I don't like her. So having a horse gave me that escape, and it gave me a reason to get up in the morning. And it still does. It still does, because kind of mental health and autism quite often go hand in hand. A lot of people are misdiagnosed with mental health when actually they're neurodivergent. They've got autism, ADHD, something like that.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting.
Mm.
If there's anyone watching that has autism or anything like that,
Mm.
how would you give them any advice? Is there any struggles or anything that you've had that have impacted your life or your riding?
I absolutely overanalyze most conversations that I have with people, which probably doesn't actually affect the person that I talk to, but because I'm so hyper aware of it, I'm like, why did I say that? I got my words muddled up. They're going to think I'm an idiot. They're going to think I'm stupid. Um, so my advice would be, don't be so hard on yourself. I mean, I started having therapy after my diagnosis to kind of make sense of it all, because I was a bit like, when I when I thought I might be autistic, I spoke to my mum and I said, "Look, I think I might have autism." And she turned around and went, "Yeah, me and your dad have thought you've had it for ages. Like, we've always thought you've had it." And I was like, "Really?" And she's like, "Well, yeah, like, obviously not while you were a kid, but now we can look back and see certain things you did as a kid, want to be on your own. You didn't really want to be around people. Whilst then having horses and being on livery yards forces you to be around people, and especially people you wouldn't ordinarily hang out with." Um, so I don't even know where I'm going with this. but but yeah, so back to the question at hand. What advice would I give? Be kind to yourself, because like I say, I can be so self-critical, and especially I suppose with dressage, you're ultimately paying someone to not rip you apart, but tell you where you've gone wrong. Um, so yeah, just be kind. Take constructive criticism, especially with dressage. It's never "you're rubbish." It's, circle could have been rounder, slightly above the bit, things like that, that you think, right, okay, I can work on that, rather than when I was showing and I had the judge say to me, "Your horse is too old." Well, I can't do anything about that.
Mhm.
Like, he's not going to get any younger, sadly. Um, so yeah, sorry, I'm
No,
rambling.
no, that's perfect. Is there anything else on that kind of topic that you think is worth mentioning?
I think there are. I mean, when I started telling people at work that I was autistic, I had one guy make a comment, "Oh, everyone's being diagnosed these days with something." And I think, well, that's because there is such a backlog, especially with women, where they just thought, they had mental health issues. A lot of people have been struggling, that especially women, their whole lives, thinking they're different, but they don't know why they're different. They don't know, especially young girls, why they're falling out with people, or why friends don't get that they are the way they are, or they get mixed communications. When one person says something, that's not what they actually mean. They mean something else. So what I'd like to get out there is, if you do feel like you might be, then speak to somebody, because I think especially with people, like with women with horses, there probably are a lot of undiagnosed women out there that have struggled their whole lives. But whether it is maybe autism or ADHD, I mean, ADHD, there's medication now that can help them. Obviously, I'm not really qualified to talk about that. I haven't got ADHD, or not diagnosed anyway. But I just think there are a lot of women that could be struggling that could get help and talk to somebody, maybe have that conversation with a family member or a friend, and see what they think. And then I know obviously on the NHS there is a massive backlog, because people didn't think when girls had autism, they just thought girls are shy, you know. I was always labelled shy or just a bit quirky, you know. She just really likes horses. Well, you know, there's liking horses, then there's really liking horses, and everything you do at school is around horses. You know, you counting down the hours to go to the stables, you skipping school because you're getting bullied and you just want to go to the stables, you know.
You have recently had spinal cord surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that wasn't horse related. However,
No.
it probably will impact. You've had a lot of time off for the surgery, recovering,
Mm.
and having to get back on. Can you chat me through that?
Yeah. So the injury itself, I was supposed to be going to an Abbey Lyle clinic that weekend, but the weekend before we'd had an accident with my lorry where the ramp fell off. Honestly, you just couldn't make it up. It was so stressful. So we had to cancel the Abbey Lyle clinic, and my mum was going away. And I said to my mum, well, you know, I know the lorry's been fixed, but I've given up my place on the Abbey Lyle clinic. There's a boot sale on next weekend. And mum went, oh, what horsey boot sale? I said, yeah. She said, oh, that's great. Yeah, do that. You won't hurt yourself at a horsey boot sale. So yeah, lifting up a box and putting it in the boot of my car, and I slipped a disc in my spine. Again, the wait on the NHS was really long, so my horse box fund had to go on my back. It was horrible. And the mental impact of that was horrible. You know, I mean, my consultant wasn't really keen on me riding that soon. He eventually agreed 12 weeks post-op you can ride, but even then he said, well, yeah, I don't really want you trotting till June because of the discs like bouncing on each other. Well, I've been trotting, but yeah. So how has that impacted me? It's made me really more aware that as you get older, you really have to look after your body. You really have to, you know, not only be physically fit, but look after yourself. So I have been riding in an air jacket. And I was talking to, I've been working with reformed riders, and they have a mechanical horse. So I've been riding him, Dave, shout out to Dave. And I said to Katie, who owns Dave, I said, oh, yeah, I'm going to be riding again in a couple of weeks, but I'm going to have to be a bit nerdy and wear an air jacket. She went, well, why is that nerdy? I said, well, you know, you look a bit, it's sad riding around in an air jacket. She said, no, you don't. You're looking after yourself. You've just had spinal surgery. Like, this is the kind of thing that needs to be challenged, you know, because people probably thought that when, you know, it was widely acceptable to wear a riding hat, you know, oh, look at that person wearing a riding hat. Oh, they're a bit, you know, geeky. Well, no, it's not geeky to look after yourself. So it's made me really more aware of what I do and the implications. You know, everyone wants to run around galloping everywhere and jumping crazy stuff, but if you fall off and hurt yourself, it's a big deal. I'm not going to make it or let it affect me in the way that I'm going to be nervous of riding. Far from it. I've just got to be aware of, and also what I'm doing out of the saddle, because I think the way I lifted the box, I've so overanalyzed the whole accident. It's mad. But I think where I lifted the box, if my core had been a bit stronger, maybe I would have used my core and my legs more to lift it than my back. So again, it's made me more aware of that, and rider fitness. So I'm probably getting back on mags fitter than I've ever been, really, because, you know, laying on your back for 2-3 months, just watching Netflix, it's not great. So yeah, it's made me definitely more aware of the implications of what can go wrong and how it affects your body.
I would like to speak about your social media.
Oh, yeah.
You have Instagram.
Hmm.
How did that start?
Right, so that is a story. So back in late 2016, early 2017, I entered a competition to win a saddle, a Steuben saddle, and I didn't win, sadly.
I thought you were going to tell me you won then.
Sadly, I didn't win. No, but then I got a really weird message on Facebook from Steuben's official account saying, "Hi, sorry to say that you didn't win the winner saddle competition, but can you ring this number? We'd like a chat." And I thought, oh god, like who is this person? Like, are they really Steuben, or is this someone like trying to fool me? So I rang the number, and the lady said, "Hi, it's Claire McCoon from Steuben. Are you the girl that we met at Hickstead with the French bulldog?" And I had to like think, Hickstead, French bulldog, yeah, that's me. I was like, yeah. And she said, yeah, hi. So we're looking at working with people for like product reviews and stuff like that. Would that be something you're interested in? And I was like, yeah, you're going to give me some free Steuben stuff. That's great. She was like, yeah. So what we need you to do is start up a Facebook and an Instagram account. And I thought, oh, well, that's a bit like cringe, isn't it? Like starting a Facebook and an Instagram account for like me and my horse. But I did it, and it kind of evolved from there. So it all kind of is Claire at Steuben's fault that I started this, and I got the name Ali Approved. This is quite embarrassing, from Horse and Hound Approved. Because I'm an avid reader of Horse and Hound, and their product review section is called Horse and Hound Approved. So I was like, okay, I'll be Ali Approved, and then it was like, Ali Approved's been taken, so I was like, Ali Approved 2 on 2. Then there you go, sorted. So it all kind of started from there, and from that I then picked up other brand deals, and I've made some amazing friends. That's the one thing that I could never have predicted from starting that little Instagram account back in 2017, is that I'd meet some amazing people, not just like brands that I work with, but like friends like Jenny, Katie, Charlie, like Anna Lee as well, who has really helped me with like my autism diagnosis. I would never have known these people if it hadn't been for Instagram. So it's kind of how it started.
Yeah, I think people definitely underestimate the power of social media and making
Mm,
friends,
mm,
especially like when you're in your older years, like especially like 20s, 30s. Like
mm,
I think people struggle to make friends, and I think in the
mm.
equestrian world we're quite lucky in the fact that you meet a lot of people like through horses on the
Yeah.
yard, but social media is so powerful in helping that
Mm,
as well, which is amazing.
yeah.
I would like to speak a little bit about the brand deals and how you
Mm.
get brand deals, because we put a question box up on Instagram and that was one of the questions that
Was
got
it?
put in.
Oh.
How do you work with brands?
Okay, so a lot of the brands that I work with, I've built relationships up with them over the years. So 9 out of 10 of them, unless they're new, I use their products already. So my advice to anybody that wants to work with a brand is become friends with them, really. Promote their products even if you don't work with them. If you have a coat that you absolutely live and die in, talk about it. If there's a rug that you cannot possibly live without, talk about it. Like that, because the people behind these brands, especially the smaller brands, like you probably know yourself with Acting Harmony, really appreciate genuine fans and genuine people that love the product. There's probably nothing better for you than when you get a message from someone that's like, I love this and it's amazing, or I bought it for a friend and it's great and they love it. It's such a lovely feeling. And just remember, there is a person behind that brand, and they fist pump every time someone makes an order or someone says something great about it. So like with e-gloves, I'd become friends with James over the years, so I started working with them. um Trying to think of other examples. Bliss, Bliss of London Saddles. Their saddle fit mags. It was amazing. Met them at shows, and it's a one-woman band, which I absolutely love. I really love to champion women-owned businesses. So, yeah, like if there is a brand that you are passionate about, talk about them.
Yeah, I think that's amazing advice, and I just want to back it up even further by speaking about Atlantic Harmony. And when we were looking for brand ambassadors, it was so easy to pick some of them because
Hmm.
a lot of them already owned the products and loved
Yeah.
us anyway. Like shout out Tay, like Tay wears Atlantic
Mm.
Harmony all the time. Like every probably 5th post she does, and she posts every single day. She's in Atlantic Harmony, and picking her as a brand ambassador was so easy. It was like a no-brainer. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's an amazing tip for
Yeah.
people out there.
Mm.
Have you got any other just generic social media tips for people wanting to start?
I mean, I do have TikTok, but I don't know about you. TikTok's so hard. I think with TikTok you have to post every single
Yeah.
day, which I struggle with. I do shift work, so I find it really difficult. But I think if you have some kind of posting strategy and schedule that you can stick to, then do stick to that. Obviously, take time off if you're, struggling with personal issues and things like that. No one's gonna hate on you for taking a week off because you have things to do or because things get tough. But for social media also, I think it's more important to build a community than have follower numbers. Obviously, I have a good following. It's not amazing, but it's brilliant, and I know my followers, and my followers, I feel like they know me because I chat on stories about what I'm up to, and building that kind of relationship. And the same with brands, I'll chat to them and we'll bounce ideas off each other. So I think if you are going to do social media and do similar to what I do, which is share my life and share the things that I do, is to build a community rather than clickbaity stuff and giveaways and things like that. They're not what is important. I think sharing your story and being authentic and almost becoming friends with your followers, because they're with you every step of the way, and I think that's really important.
So this podcast is obviously called Beyond the Stable.
Mm.
So I want to know what you do beyond the stable. What do you do when you're not with horses?
Oh God, not a lot. I have a few friends that aren't horsey, but not many. I work in the transport sector. The company I work for was quite strict on social media. I mean, we had somebody in Bake Off and they couldn't say who they worked for. They just said they were a project manager. So I shift work in the transport industry. So I do that when I'm not at the stables. I'm quite big into music, so I go to a lot of gigs. I did see Taylor Swift twice last year. That was amazing. And other bands like the 1975, I've seen them about 7 times. Which, yeah, I share some of that on my socials, but that's not really what people are interested in. So I'll share like little snippets of that. But that's kind of what I do beyond the stable. Not an awful lot, just music and work.
Yeah. And then my final question for you is, if I could have any guest on the podcast, whether it be professional, an influencer, anyone that's interested in the horse world, who should I have?
Oh, that's a really hard question because there's so many people. I think because like I've said to you off camera, you let people tell their stories, and people's stories you wouldn't ordinarily know. And I think there are so many people out there with stories to tell. My friend Anna Lee, a typical equestrian, I think she'd be great on here. But then equally, someone like Muddy Mayhem, who is an event rider in Suffolk, she'd be great. You'd be roaring. She's so funny. And one of my besties, Beth Sen, I think she'd be great on the podcast. She has some amazing stories that I think your listeners and viewers would be really interested in, and she's lovely.
Well, amazing. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
It's
you.
been very interesting. I've learnt loads, and yeah, I'm sure everyone
in a
watching
short
has
space of
learnt
time.
loads. Yeah, it was so good. If you guys have watched across on YouTube, make sure you're subscribing and liking. If you're over on Spotify, make sure you're leaving a review, and I will see you next week. Thank you again.
No worries, thanks for having me.